Hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you for clicking on this video. I wanted to make a quick video on day trading. So I do options trading. I wanted to go over all of the indicators that I use and their meaning and why I use them and show them in a couple examples. I'll try to make this as simple and as easy to understand just so it's straightforward. So the first indicator that we're going to go over is our trend line. So first and foremost, what is a trend line? A trend line is a line drawn over pivot highs or under pivot lows to show the direction of price. So a trend line shows us the direction a price is going, like this, and then this would be an uptrend. Trend lines are important because if we know the direction of a stock, it's easier to trade in the direction that the stock is already going. It's easier than trying to predict that the direction will change. So the indicator that I use for this is right here. It's called Trend Lines Pro. And this one is locked because the owner sells it for about $80. You can message this person right here. This is the indicator. So it's called Trend Lines Pro, and it um, charts the trend line for you already. So you don't have to do all of the thinking. So we'll use it on our first example, and this will be for Baba. Let me remove old drawings. So when we click Trendlines Pro and we go to settings, I go to style, and I remove labels and tables. So it removes all of that noise. And then I go to OK. And now we can see our trend line. And it's better to check on higher time frames. So when we go to the daily chart, we see that it doesn't really find a clean trend line. So we can go to the 4 hour and we can see overall that it is kind of in a downtrend. It's slowly starting to come up, but this is the resistance on this trend line. And we can check on the hour time frame as well. And we can see that it's coming close to the trend line right here. So if you were doing day trades on the 5 or 15 minute, we would know that we are coming close to a resistance area. So that is our trend line indicator. We can hide that. And the next one is our supply and demand levels. So what is this? Supply and demand is a theory that seeks to explain the relationship between the availability and desire for a product and its price, security and its price. Low availability and high demand boost the price of an item. High availability and low demand reduces its price. So the indicator that I use to find supply and demand, it says support and resistance, but it kind of finds our supply and demand. The meanings are basically the same. So it's from the same creator, and this charts our supply and demand levels at whichever time frame that we would like. So we can X that out, and we will click this, add it to our chart, and go to settings. So I remove tables, get that out of the way. And when I go to inputs, this is where it is up to you. Whichever one you think is best for you, I would play around with it. But for the time frame, when I'm day trading, I have found the 30 minutes to be the easiest for me. So when you are on the 30-minute, your time frame here has to be 30 minutes or less for it to show. So now that we see these levels, we can see how the stock reacts to these different areas. So I like to highlight it myself like this. And I do it just for myself. Sometimes when you switch to lower time frames, they disappear for a second, and I don't like that. So I like to highlight it myself and then hide it. So now I can see some levels of interest. That's what we use these supply and demand levels. Not that they always work, but levels of interest. So when our stock comes into these levels, that is when we will think about taking a trade, and only then. So now, when we add our trend line, we can see a support level, we can see resistance levels, and we can see these purple areas are levels of interest. Now, the only other indicator that I like to add sometimes is some type of moving average, whether it's the VWAP or any other moving average. What is a moving average? A moving average is a stock indicator commonly used in technical analysis, used to help smooth out price data by creating updated average price. So for here, if we add our moving averages, I'll use this, our EMA. So there is SMA and EMA. SMA is for if you are doing swing trades or investing and you want to see a slower moving average. I like to use EMA, which is better for day trading. We get a bunch of them, and you can look at the 20, the 50, the 100, the 200, whatever you like. But for us, I will just keep the 20 and the 50. So these moving averages tell us that when our stock is above the 50-day, that it is bullish. And if it is below the 50-day, like here, that it is bearish. Indicators are used just to help us trade. So when we have more indicators that confirm what we predicted, then we take a trade. So let's jump to the 5 minute. And let's look at Alibaba as our first example and what I would do if I was trading there. So I'll turn off the trend lines just for now because we've already seen that on the higher time frame. Now, Alibaba has a big open at the beginning, and I usually don't like to trade until 15 minutes after the market opens, anyways, just to avoid all that volatility. You can if you like. So it runs up and it comes into this zone here. And this zone would be considered a supply zone. Why is this a supply zone and not this? It is because this is the zone that is above where the stock opened up. So stock opened up at about $79. So the zone that it is coming into would be considered a supply zone. And we would look to see if we can sell around this zone. And the zone below, if it came into here, this would be considered a demand zone. And we would look for some buyers in this zone. So stock comes into here. So let's highlight this area and see what we do in this area. We highlight that. Let's change the color. And let's jump to our 1 minute time frame and see what we are looking for. So the stock comes into here, and we are seeing if it will trade below our moving averages and start to head down. Sometimes it takes a while, as you can see here, but we finally see it breaks below our moving averages and starts to head down towards our demand level. If we go back into the day before, we see a similar thing but with a demand zone. We see the stock come down, come into our demand zone, and in this point, we are looking at this area here. When it comes into a supply and demand zone, demand doesn't always mean buy, and supply doesn't always mean sell. We are looking for this exactly, some consolidation. And during the consolidation is when buyers and sellers are fighting and deciding if we are going to send this back up or bring it down. So this is the only time that you should be trading a stock is when it reaches these zones. So I would set alarms or alerts at our demand and supply zone. We get alerted it came into here. We look for our consolidation and see if it breaks through. And if you are a really good trader, you don't just buy right when it breaks through. You wait for it to come down and retest that area, like we see here. So it's coming down to kind of retest the area, and we see if it finds support. For instance, this went into the following day, but we can still look at this as an example. So this is now in a supply zone. The stock is deciding where it is going to go. And what happened the next day? It decided not to trade below it. A lot of buyers stepped up and sent this to the upside, as we can see there. And in here, the sellers sent it back down. So let's look at another example. We'll look at Microsoft. So we do the same thing every single time. We set our supply and demand levels. First, look at the hourly chart and see where the stock is going overall. So we look at our trend. So we set these zones, hide this, and we come into our 5-minute and we see when the stock enters our zone, like it does right here. So we are in our, since the stock opened up here, this would be our demand zone. So we're thinking maybe the stock might go back up if it can break through this. What is this? Our moving average. If it can break through our moving average and it's consolidating, we can see sellers are stepping up, buyers are selling up, sellers, buyers, they're fighting because this is an area of interest. And who eventually wins? We stay below our moving average and the stock heads back down. And this area would be it would be a decent area to step in, or even this area below here when we see the retest breaks below and comes back down into our next level of demand. We can take a look at another stock. This is Google. So we take a look at our levels. Okay, and then we jump to the 5-minute, and if we like, we can, we'll just stretch that out a little bit. But we see Google opens up in this $98 area, and it's trapped in this zone. I probably wouldn't take a trade because it was still early in the day. So we can look at these two zones here and here. So we're in this zone right here. This would be our supply zone. Jump to our 1 minute, and we're looking for a winner between buyers and sellers. Who takes over in this zone? And the buyers were unfortunately not able to continue that buying pressure to the upside. Therefore, sellers took over, and our stock breaks below this supply level and our moving averages, and we can enter around right here and sell at our demand zone again. And same thing in our demand zone, they're fighting again for who takes over, and we start to break below. And then we can just take a look at one more stock that I traded the other day to the downside. Since we're in a bear market, puts have been paying a lot more um, recently, and that's what I've been looking more. I've been more confident in trading puts. But we can see Tesla has been trading in, came into this zone right here, and I set a notification around right here. Like once it starts to enter my demand or supply zone, um, and we can see Tesla didn't really push too far into this supply zone at all because of how quick buyers, how quick sellers jumped in. If we add volume to our stock, we can see um, all of this green, and we can see once it came close to this level, the supply level, that immediately sellers jumped in, and we had the strongest red candle of the day, other than the first 10 minutes. So we had this big red candle, not big or big compared to the rest of the volume day, followed by multiple 5 minute red candles. And once we break below our moving averages, we see that this just goes down to what would be our next demand level, but the trading day ended. So that's all I have for us today. The three indicators that we need or that I like to use to trade. I check my trend line of the overall stock. I know I haven't done it for every single one, but when we check, we just see our trend lines to see if there's areas of support. We see Tesla, it came to our area of support. Um, so we check our trend line, see where the stock is going. We don't like to trade against the trend line. We check our supply and demand levels, see where buyers would be stepping in and where sellers would be stepping in. So you are on the correct side of the trade. And then look at your moving averages to see, is the stock trading more or less than it has been trading? And if I'm using the 20 and 50 day, is it trading less than it was in the past 20 days or more? Was it trading less than it was in the past 50 days or more? If we are below our moving averages, that means the stock is in a bearish moment. It's trading, this is the 50-day moving average, which means Tesla is trading less than it has traded in the last 50 days. That's weakness. And look at this big red candle at the end of the day. So we can probably expect even more bearish movement Monday. So that's all I have for us today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Just message me if you have any questions. Um, and if you like this video, please give it a like. Check out my other videos and comment below if there is anything that I missed. I'll try to keep these videos to 5 minutes from now on because I can see it's around the 5 minute mark. A lot of people start exiting the video. So take care, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful night.